Hello Cancer friends, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my Cancer September 2023 Astrology Horoscope Forecast. This is for you if Cancer is your sun sign, your moon sign, your rising sign, or any other placement of Cancer that you're watching for. What we're going to talk about here is part of your astrological picture. And if you're a very late degree Cancer friend, so birthdays around July 15th through the rest of the sign, or Cancer placements 23 degrees through the rest of the sign, I suggest you additionally listen to my Leo report because your very late degree friends will benefit from both readings. I'm calling the theme of this month and really this period of time necessary endings, and we'll go into all of the details about that, plus all kinds of other things. It sure would be nice and easy if all of the astrological forces that were affecting us fit neatly into a calendar month in their influence, but it doesn't work that way. So the things we're going to be talking about, some of them will have started before September and will continue afterwards for a short time, for a long time. You know, these are factors that are going to be affecting you in September, but their influence may have started before and may go after this time. And some of these things are very long-term transits as well. So the topic of necessary endings that I'm talking about for Cancer at this time, there are two divisions of this. One has to do with necessary endings for choices that you make and actions that you take. And the other part of necessary endings are going to be things that the universe deems necessary for them to end, in which case they will happen regardless of your consent or agreement, or regardless of what you do. Okay, so because we are back in eclipse season, this is the type of thing that happens, and plus some of the other forces at play are bringing some fated experiences. So I'll just give you a quick overview of some of these storylines. We'll go through different dates throughout the reading. Now, it might seem strange that the first dates I'm giving you are actually October dates in the September reading, and I'll explain that right now. Eclipses are very powerful experiences astronomically, astrologically. Astronomically they happen at the day and the moment they happen, but astrologically there are multiple cycles at play. And although the eclipses are October 14th for that new moon solar eclipse at 21 degrees of Libra, that's the second Libra Aries eclipse in the cycle that started in the spring of this year, or fall for you all down under. Then October 28th, we have the closeout of that Taurus Scorpio eclipse cycle with a full moon at 5 degrees of Taurus. That is the ending of a 2-year cycle, 2021 to 2023. And a lot is culminating in that. And in particular, eclipse time brings us along a destiny path where there are things that we are to experience, and that is what's happening. And some of these things are tough. We don't want them. But some of these things are things better than we could imagine or plan. So, it's definitely a mixed bag. But the influence for eclipses, the eclipse season, is 4 to 6 weeks before and after these eclipses. So you can see that puts us really to the end of August. Fully September is eclipse season, and then into, November, even into December. So this season is going to be very active with radical change, closing out of karmic patterns and agreements, and brilliant new openings. And along with these are going to come necessary endings. Some of these things you'll just come to see like, wow, okay, it's time for me to end this big or small thing. And some of it, like I said, the universe will be like, guess what? That's over. Okay, done. Non-negotiable. All right, so those factors are at play, and that's setting a major tone for this month. And I'll drill down in details as I go through the chart. I'm just going to go in order here of the things that are catching my eye, but I wanted to give you that kind of big overtone because it's just, it's such a dominating feature of the energetics of this month. Now, if you are listening to the podcast version and you would like to see the visuals, just go to Annie Botticelli YouTube and find my Cancer September 2023 report, and then you can see what I'm referring to. I will describe it as clearly as possible, so for those of you who are listening, if you don't want or don't, the visual, that you'll still be able to follow along. And if you don't like the visual, then you can listen to the podcast version or scroll up on the screen on YouTube and just not see the visual and just listen to the words. Okay, so the first thing here that I want to talk about has to do with a continued, sustained strong energetic of 3 ladies of the zodiac in Leo. We've got star goddess Juno, which rules partnerships. Venus also has her level of ruling partnerships and relationships as well, also ruling romance, children, pleasures, things that we love to do, comfort. And then we've got star goddess Lilith. She's gotten a bad rap. People see her as bringing up aggression and resentment and, just things from the very deep realms. And some of that is absolutely true, but I'm a Sagittarius, I'm an optimist. I don't like to limit things to their negative expression because we live on a planet of duality. And so everything, even that has challenges with it, will also have an upside. And I see Lilith as a beautiful, if you kind of just imagine her as this, really excited, vibrant, young energy. It doesn't have to be young in age, but just youthful in energy that's ready to take on and positively change the world. Generally through changing themselves first and then projecting those positive changes out. So it's an energy of radical change and positive shifts. And possibly having to clear some things under the surface that could be holding you back. So all of this energy is lighting up the house of children and creativity, making it very vibrant. We don't usually have so much Leo energy at this time of year. Venus being in retrograde and having the Leo transit from June through October is rare. So she's spearheading this whole thing. But all of this for you is activating the financial sector. Your income, your spending, your budget, your stuff, your material things, your relationship to material things, your sustainability, whether that's ecological or financial, your budgets, all of those things. So you've got the help of partnerships. You've got the help of exuberant, can-do-it, ready for change Lilith. You've got Venus, which can harmonize and bring more money, Venus rules the house of Taurus, and so she always likes to be in that space. So definitely the topic of money and spending is on your mind, and possibly the acquisition of some things that you really have wanted. So now it's time to bring in a few more dates. September 3rd, Venus goes direct. And in retrograde, Venus has been making people question or going back over things involving love and relationships and money and all of that stuff. You can look up my resources, Annie Botticelli, Venus Retrograde, to see more about that. We're not going to cover that a lot now. But these influences are still in effect from September 3rd through October 7th when the post-transit period changes. But basically, if you have had a lack of clarity about something in those areas, if you have been unmotivated, if you have wanted to do a bunch of new stuff and it's not really showing up, then you're going to feel things really start to move forward. And that's also in your financial sector. And of course, the relationship energy is there from Venus too. All right. And then March 15th, oh my God, I don't know where that came from, September 15th is when Mercury goes direct, 14th or 15th, depending on your time zone. And the post-shadow transit goes till the end of the month. So you kind of get this picture that as the month proceeds, we're getting more and more out of that web of retrograde, less, in the past, going back over things, more into the future. You might have an easier time making decisions about information that came to you and making plans. Now, as these are going retrograde on the 4th, goodness. You can tell I've gotten a little tired here. So anyway, so as Venus and Mercury are going forward, Jupiter is going to go retrograde. I'll talk a little bit about Jupiter later, but for now I just want to explain something important about this month that you'll notice. As these personal planets, Venus and Mercury, are going direct, you're going to see a lot of things blaze forward and more clarity come in certain areas. But then as Jupiter turns around, certain things that were blazing forward are going to go backwards. And some bigger vision things, some bigger ambitions, the outer planets can often rule things that are kind of like of a bigger, longer term consequence, and then the ones closer to us are like our daily things, the things we want to do that, like on a more short term level and more closer to us, not necessarily our grand vision for life, So those grand visions, those grand ambitions might take a little dial back from the beginning of September through the end of December. And so if you notice that happening, the best guidance here is if something was like really hot and moving forward and then it stops, instead of chasing it, put your power behind the things that are blazing forward, because you're going to see those too. And if you try to chase the things that are going backwards, you're going to be scrambling for a while and frustrated. So just kind of notice, that's why I tell you about this stuff beforehand. So you can pay attention to these subtle shifts and sometimes not so subtle shifts. All right, so the next thing of note is we have a lot of Virgo energy. We've got the Sun, Mercury, and then star goddess Pallas Athena. And Virgo planets can bring lots of good discipline, organization. You can redo your schedule, redo your routine, tend to things that need to be dealt with, appointments, teeth cleanings, things like that. Now, you might want to schedule these things more towards the end of the month, or schedule them, a little bit out of the retrograde of Mercury, because it's hard to do that. But it's the idea of it. Like, okay, it's time for me to start getting my health stuff in order. I've got to get my diet on track. I've got to, tend to these things close to you. This can also be pets and animals, or working with animals. But you're going to have more discipline and more focus and more perseverance. And that will be very helpful, because these Leo energies can be a little ungrounding. But I always like to say, when we've got an abundance of fire, which we do, you can see all this fire energy. There's a lot of fire energy. We've got, some long-term Aries transits, Eris, Chiron, transiting North Node. The moon is there at the beginning of the month, but it will blast through, so we're not going to talk about that much. The point is, there's a lot of fire energies going around, and I always see that as making your watery pot boil. So that adds impetus and, motivation to do things, and then your bubbles bubbling over into action and activity. So that's happening. But these Virgo placements, they make a nice 60-degree angle for you. And this is just, really getting your emotions on track, getting your emotions balanced, directing your emotional power into productivity, things that you really have to get done. And a lot of this can also relate to third house, which is communication, writing projects, emails, correspondence, and also travel nearby, getting things done, running errands, stuff like that. And this can also have to do with the devices or the transportation modes. So if you're looking to get a new something, Venus's retrograde energy lingering can help you get a good deal on a bargain. A lot of times people get rid of things they don't see as having value in Venus retrograde, only to figure out later that they had a lot of value, and they're like, man, could have gotten more for that. But it makes it a bargain hunter's delight. You just want to make sure you're not the one getting rid of something below value, because you might regret that at some point later. So you can check all that out and see how that manifests for you. Pallas Athena brings an energy of boldness, of really just doing what has to be done fearlessly. And so there is a prudent, practical element with her in Virgo. So really just kind of grabbing yourself by the seat of your pants and doing what has to be done. And guess what? Some of those things might be necessary endings. All right, so this is our theme. I talked about the eclipse layer of that. But there's this more superficial layer as well. Maybe you have clutter in your house and you're like, no, this has to end. I'm going to see Marie Kondo's books, what's it called? The Magical Power of Tidying Up, or something like that. Maybe you're like, this having stuff all over the place has to end. This is a necessary ending. This disorganization and being behind in my paperwork has to end. Maybe from the Leo in the second house perspective, this overspending on stuff has to end, or this doing without this thing I really want has to end, and I'm going to get that thing, or whatever. So, these might be little mini necessary endings that you act on. And all this fire making your pot bubble will give you, some good energy and motivation to do that. All right, so then we've got Mars recently in Libra, activating your fourth house of home, family, and housing. You may get really hot on doing stuff on your house or moving. You might get restless or taking a little trip or moving about in some way. It's a very restless energy, but it's really great for house projects. And with Venus going direct, it's going to make it easier to do some bigger house projects without that shadow hanging over you of the what was I thinking storyline of Venus retrograde. Sometimes when we do big things involving love, beauty, money, design in Venus retrograde, we look back and say, what was I thinking? So that's why it's always better to try things on and experiment in Venus retrograde and not do something completely permanent, because you might not be seeing clearly. You might be seeing through your Venus goggles, your Venus retro goggles. But in any case, now with Mars moving forward very strongly, and with Libra in your 4th house, you are ready to get some stuff done in your house, and you may need to have help doing that. Okay, so Libra is showing you may need to hire some people, or you may need to enlist the help of a YouTuber that's a professional on the topic of what you want to fix in your house, or whatever it is. But, there's a lot of restless energy. And if you're wanting to move, this is actually an amazing time, because as Mercury's shadow passes, as we get out of the Venus shadow, you'll have more clarity about where you want to move, your budget, etc., and making plans for moving, into October has really good energy, and that might be part of the necessary endings. Maybe you just have to move, or maybe a roommate has to go, or maybe not having a roommate has to go. You can see how this can manifest. It's also a time to reap some crops. You see this little sickle here, that's Ceres, our goddess Ceres. She's the goddess of harvest, and she's moving through your 4th house. And so it might be a time to harvest. Maybe you're selling your house and you're getting the money out. It's harvest time. Maybe you have an empty space in your house and you're going to use the energy for design and, moving forward with those things to access that space. So those are all good ways to do that. And then we've got transiting South Node in Libra, opposing, of course, transiting North Node in Aries. Transiting, or South Node has to do with our karma. North Node has to do with our dharma. So it's basically the things you came in with, for better or worse, and versus your North Node, which is your highest expression in this lifetime. And since around April, this has been in Aries Libra. So we've got a couple of years of this me-we storyline, where you're basically clearing out belief systems and karma around relationships, and you're stepping into better energies there. So it's a big clear out of your family lineage karma. So if you have patterns that you have in your family and you're like, I do not want that pattern, you might be very motivated to use a tool of the 4th house, which is psychology, or any kind of spiritual or psychological process that helps you to stop doing things that your parents did, or stop doing the opposite of your parents to spite them, or, stop participating in dysfunctional family relationships. And you can blow out a lot of karma at this time with this eclipse as well. Okay, so Pluto is dipped back into Capricorn just for a little bit, but it's still influencing in where it's going in Aquarius. This very precious energetic between the very end of Capricorn and the very beginning of Aquarius is talking about this storyline of figuring out what old things, traditional things, that's, Capricorn, what things in your life, in your relationships, in your belief systems, and everything are working for you. They've always worked. They're just kind of your thing that you do. And then which things need to be new and futuristic. So you're holding on to the structure. And actually Capricorn rules the skeletal system in the body, and it rules the systems of our lives, the education systems, the financial systems, the healthcare systems. That's why everything has been under such duress. Pluto's been going through Capricorn since 2008 and blowing up systems, basically, and then seeing what's left and have the bare bones skeletal structure and building new. So you're doing that in your life as well. And you're looking for these places where you have to apply maybe AI, or where you have to apply good old-fashioned, write somebody a letter and send it to them with a stamp and an envelope and everything, and maybe a little sticker on the envelope. Where are each of those very different ways of doing things going to benefit you, and what's your plan for moving forward with this delicate balance of these, very new things versus these very old things. Okay, so Saturn recently moved into Pisces. This is testing your belief systems. Saturn can be kind of heavy. It can be testing your religious beliefs, your beliefs on life and death and the future. And, it can also force you to broaden your horizons, or it could start to limit you a little bit in order to shift how you see things. Sometimes if our horizons are too broad, we really need to hone in on one thing in particular, and like get focal a little bit. So you're going through 3 years, 2023 to 2026, of Saturn just really gelling your belief systems. And also this can be either putting pressure on or manifesting your perfect belief systems and your perfect education. You might find that you're going back to school during this time, that you want to get educated either for a new career or for advancing in your current career, or it's a hobby and you want to do it because you love it and you may or may not ever do anything for work, but you need it for your sanity. So Saturn is doing all of that. Okay, I'm going to give you another couple of dates. And remember, if you're a person that likes the dates and you like to know the important dates of each month and know them early, and understand the important aspects, the good ones, the challenging ones, and what you can expect from them, you definitely want to go to anniehelpsyou.com and sign up for my free VIP community, get my newsletter. I have a new education newsletter going out once a month, and I've got ones with links to all of the things that my team and I have made for the current aspects and transits and stuff. So, and then of course there's my write-up with all the dates, but I always give you dates in the report as well, but I just wanted to remind you, if you love that, you may want to go to anniehelpsyou.com and sign up for my newsletter. So the next dates I want to give you are September 14th. That's the new moon in Virgo, 21 degrees. Okay, that's in that third house. We talked about the Sun, Mercury, Pallas Athena is there. So that's just a new line of energy into your communication, your transportation. And then we've got, and actually while we're on that topic, that's making a nice angle for Cancer placement. So if you've got 16 through 26 degrees of Cancer, so that's like July 6th through 16th. And the closer you are to the 11th or so, the more you get the kiss from that new moon. But don't worry, nobody's being left out of the potentials. It's also a really great time to make your new moon wishes. And one of the secrets that wonderful astrologer Jan Spiller has taught us is that you can make any wishes for the new moon and intentions. But if you align your wishes with the topic of the rulership of the sign of the new moon, that you can take your wishing even further and your manifesting even further. You can actually find my blog if you just look for Annie Botticelli Making Powerful New Moon in Virgo Wishes. You can see all of the different topics that are supercharged for your wishing at this time. Okay, then we've got the 29th of September, we've got the full moon at 6 degrees of Aries. So that's fullness, completion, fruition, drama in your career, work, or section of your father figures. Some sort of insight or occurrence or something coming to fullness, completion, fruition around that time. And that makes a challenging angle for you. So all of you could be feeling that, but June-born Cancers, you're more likely to feel that, unless you have some other Cancer placement near 6 degrees. Okay, I said we go back to Jupiter, and I'm following through with that. Jupiter has been going happily through Taurus since May, expanding your house of friendships and acquaintances in your groups and your online, could be online business, online work. And now it's going to go retrograde on the 4th. We talked about that until December 31st. So you may see those things start to cool off. And remember what the retrograde is about. Don't get nervous if like you have a new friendship or you're involved in a new group and now you're like, Sometimes expansion is rapid and it's not sustainable. So Jupiter in retrograde helps us to integrate and evaluate what has been blazing forward so that we know if we want to still go in the same direction, or we know if we need to shore up some of our foundations to go even higher. Similar to building a skyscraper versus building a one-story house, the foundation is much less thick for that one-family house than it is for that 100-story building. So depending on what it is you're trying to create, you may need to use this retrograde to reevaluate and strengthen the core level. So if you have burning astrology questions and you don't have anybody to ask and you're trying to learn, I love independent learning. I'm a life learner for sure. But one of the pitfalls of independent learning is that you don't have anyone to ask questions to. I was very blessed, and I think it might be part of why I had such a good foundation to build on, to be great at astrology and be successful with it, because I had somebody to ask. My friend and teacher was always there, and if I'm like, I don't understand this, no matter how big or small the concept was, she could help me through it. So if you want to study, whether you want to do astrology professionally or just because you love it and you want to help yourself and your family or friends, go to beastropro.com, beastropro.com. See my Becoming a Professional Astrologer Mastery Course. It's amazing for people who want to study on their, for yourself, or if you want to earn money from it. That's definitely my area of expertise. And the reason I mention these burning questions is because there's a forum in the course where you can bring your questions. So then you're not alone in trying to understand these concepts that might be interfering with you growing and understanding. So you can see that there, and I would love to help you. You can go to anniehelpsyou.com to see all my free stuff. Join my free VIP community. You can see my secret star portal, which has over a year of archives of exclusive content, how to get through tough astrological transits, my Jupiter and Taurus for all the signs, Saturn and Pisces, all kinds of stuff there. You can see the secret star portal at anniehelpsyou.com, plus connecting with my written horoscopes and other free goodies. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.